open the meeting.
I'm happy to oblige. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't see all of you from here, and I'm completely new to this. So if I were to disappear in the middle of it, it's been nice knowing you. I do feel a little bit like I'm going off to war and I may never return. But welcome, everyone, to certainly my first experience of a Lancashire Authors Association meeting on Zoom, and I can see everyone who is speaking as we go along. So thank you very much for turning up and logging on this afternoon, and I'll pass you over to Judith, who will chair the meeting.
Right, thank you, Mr. President. So I've already spoken to most of you informally, but I'd like now particularly to welcome our guest speaker, Connie Hyde. If you haven't already recognised her, you may know her from as a TV actress from The Bill and Coronation Street and other programmes, but I'm sure she's going to tell us a very interesting story about her life, how she came to be an actress and all the various things she's done. And then hopefully, Connie, you may be prepared to answer some questions afterwards. So over to you. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad, Jill, you told me it was recording, because I did something for hospital radio, for an interview for hospital radio the other day. And because it was radio, I was just sitting here, probably hopefully not picking my nose. And then it was on YouTube. Anyway, so now I know I'm being looked at. I'll behave myself. Now, I've never done this before either, Sid. So, Peter, I said, I'm not great at talking about myself. But so I don't know how this is going to go. I've made some notes, so I'm not... I'll just keep referring to them if that's all right. But in fact, I have been an actor for 30 years now, which I can't believe I'm saying that. And in that time, I've had a very varied roller coaster ride, really. So, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I started, and who influenced me, who were kind, who were not so kind, and who I met along the way, and how the industry's changed, really, because it's changed quite radically. And it's changing a lot as we speak. Well, for instance, our auditions now are like, well, not like this, but on self-tapes, which I hate, because you don't get to act with anyone. You just sort of, you're not in the room, you don't have a director there, and you just do a tape, and it's just you, really. Now, the younger generation, I think, are quite like it, because they're used to screens, but not us oldies. So that's changed very recently. And unfortunately, I think that might be here to stay, because, of course, they can see hundreds of people in tape form, whereas before, if you went in to the office to meet people, they could only see 10. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, 30 years. So I'll take you back to the beginning, because I have no idea how I became an actor, because I had nobody in the family that were actors. Both my mum and dad were nurses, and my dad was a psychiatric nurse, and my mum's Danish, and she worked with the elderly in the end. But she, sorry, I think it was my son, and they met at Parkside in Macclesfield, where she came to do a training from Denmark. And to be honest, the first 10 years of my life, they moved around a lot. So we were in Edinburgh, Burnley. So I went to a lot of schools before the age of 10, I think about 6 or 7. And this is relevant because although it wasn't very nice at the time, it was actually very good for meeting new people straight away, which is, I've found later on in the acting profession, you have to literally hit the ground running and meet people. So actually, in hindsight, that did me a favour, and also what you get to do, I used to reinvent myself everywhere I went. If I didn't like who I was the last school, I used to think, oh, I'll be someone else this time. So in a way, a little bit, playing with being different people, I'd say, but not really knowing where that was going. So we did settle in Haslingden, and I went to primary school in Haslingden and senior school in Haslingden. And this is when I first was in my first play. So it was a nativity, obviously, and there was Mary. And I remember a little boy who was my Joseph. And I remember quite bullying him, really, to rehearse with me all the time. And he had no interest in rehearsing. He wanted to go and play football all the time. But every break, I'd pull him into the classroom and I'd make him rehearse. And I obviously took it very seriously. And then I realised, I thought he wasn't very good. So I thought, I tell you what, I'll do your lines and you read them back to me like I've said it. Which I can't believe. But I must have taken it a bit more seriously than most people, I think, in the school nativity, because, he must have hated me, I can't tell you. But that's when I actually started thinking, oh, I quite like this, I quite like being on stage, because I was a very, believe it or not, a very shy kid. And I had facial tics as well, terrible facial tics. And I think it was perhaps because I'd gone to so many schools and I didn't really, wasn't really secure in myself yet. So the next stage, I went to Haslingden High School, which I'm sure some of you know about. It's just one of the Hazzy High. And there I met a fantastic teacher, Mr. Diggle, who was the English teacher there. And I started to do school plays with him. And he, I think, was one of the first people who sort of said to me, well, do you know this is a job? Because it didn't really occur to me. It was a job, really, because I didn't know anyone. And, obviously, it wasn't an option for me. So he was the first one to sort of say, I think, you could, if you enjoy it, you might be able to do this sort of thing. And then so I did school plays, and then I realised when I was about 14, I might want to be an actor. But I'd never seen a play. My parents had never seen a play. I'd never been to a play. So I thought, I better go and see a play, if I'm going to be an actor. So I actually ended up ushering at Bolton Octagon. And I was paid 60p for the night. I was paid my bus fare, which was 60p, I remember. And I worked there for about a year, and I watched some plays because I couldn't afford to go and see plays. So that was a brilliant way of seeing work and actors for free. So that was quite good, really. And then I think it was about 14, I auditioned for the Amateur Dramatic Society in Haslingden for Oliver. And this is relevant because I was to meet one of the most influential people in my life, and still is, Julie Hesmondhalgh. I'm sure you all know Julie Hesmondhalgh, dear, who a big Aki girl who was in Coronation Street and for 20 years, and is still working away. So I met Julie then, and I always like to remind her because I got in and she didn't. Which was, and she remembers me she remembers me now, and I remember her, we chatted. I mean, I didn't have any lines in it, so it wasn't any big part. So anyway, so that was 14. So I didn't see Julie till a bit later. But of course it came to, I was sort of 16, and I said to the careers office at a meeting, she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'd like to be an actor. And point blank, she said, no, you can't do that. You can be a drama therapist. And I was quite surprised, really, because she just absolutely would not entertain it. I said, I can't be an actor. And she said, no, you can be a drama therapist. Anyway, so I was lucky enough not to listen to that. And I had Mr. Diggle, who also said, no, that's not true. You can. And there's a college course. I don't know whether he introduced me to that, but I found this course in Accrington College that did A-level. I think it was an A-level. It was a diploma in acting, because there was actually no drama at school then. All schools do drama now, but there wasn't any drama at school then. So I ended up going to Accrington College. And who should I meet again? Julie Hesmondhalgh, and some wonderful people. And more so, a fantastic lecturer called Martin Cosgrove, who unfortunately died of COVID last year, which was a great loss to us all. He was influential. He was brilliant. He was an old ex-actor. He was passionate. He instilled confidence in us all that we could do it, you know. And I don't think any of us really thought of it as a job. But he was the one who said yes. And I think he got 5 of us into major drama schools, which is extraordinary. From a little place like that, 4 of us into LAMDA, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, me, Julie, Joe Alessi, and another friend, Paul, and Mina Anwar, another Aki girl who you'll probably know, who's done very well, and another couple of others went to different drama schools. Now, this was, I cannot tell you how unprecedented this was. It was absolutely, not only to come from a small place in Accrington, but to actually have so many people getting in drama schools, because it was hard. You know, I think it's something 2,500 apply for 20 places. So it's not an easy thing. But then also we were helped, and I cannot thank them enough, and it's not available now. We all got a council grant, and there was absolutely no way any of us would have been able to go without a Lancashire County Council grant at the time. So again, very lucky, because none of us would have been able to go to have had that available. So that's what worries me slightly now, because that isn't available to young people of our background, of working class backgrounds. So the next chapter is Down in the Big Smoke, me and Julie. So I was very lucky to have my best friend. If you're going to move when you're 18 to London, it's great to have your best friend there. So me and Julie moved into this horrible house with rats in Alperton, which was at the very end of the Piccadilly line. But it was ours, and there were no phones then, obviously no mobiles or anything. So our mum and dad's dropped us off, and then off they went. And then we both started crying and hugging each other, petrified. I think I didn't know what to expect. But actually, I think Julie, more than me, was more comfortable, to be honest. She in our first year, she seemed to settle, and she was a bit more confident than me. And I spent every night walking around B&Q, because it's the only thing I recognised. So I literally spent a year walking around B&Q going, oh, reminds me of home, you know. So that was a bit, anyway, we spent 3 years there. And but I still don't think we ever thought we'd work. You know, I think it was still, we were lucky to get in and you know, I don't think we'll ever work, but never mind, we've had a good time. So when we left, these I'd probably say are my glory years because I was very lucky in the fact that I was the only girl who got an agent. I think up till about the bill when I was about 32, I worked consistently. And it's funny, you probably only know me from the bill or Coronation Street, but my first job was at the Royal Court, which was a dream come true. I did a lot of theatre then, and then I did a big series, Linda LaPlante series called Lifeboat with, I don't know if you know Brendan Gleeson, who's gone on, an amazing actor. It was his first job, and Carl Johnson. So I worked straight away, I think, when I was about 23 with these incredible actors in St. David's. It was actually on a lifeboat. We filmed on a lifeboat for 9 months. I mean, this job is, when it works, it's beautiful. This job is beautiful. So, and then I literally went from series to series, and I thought, oh, this is all right. You know, this is doing all right here. You know, I thought it would continue. And I did a lawyers series. I did lots of police. I played lots of police, lawyers, and prostitutes, actually. Weirdly enough, that was my casting. Police, lawyers, and prostitutes. All women, all professional women. And so then I came and did the bill, which was at the time, weirdly enough, I was a little bit reticent to do it because I didn't really want to get stuck in something. I mean, it sounds arrogant now, really, and how lucky was I, you know, but at the time it was going very well. But I had in the meantime met my husband, and we were trying to have a family. So I thought it might be quite good to be in employment because unfortunately still is the case. You're not in a good place if you get pregnant and you're not working, because you won't get employed. You usually have a medical to begin with, and also they don't like it because of continuity. So it's probably not fair, and I'm wondering if it's legal anymore. But certainly then you wouldn't do it. But if you were in contract, you could take time out and you wouldn't lose your job, sort of thing. So I thought it'd be a very good time to do the bill. But I was very lucky because it was a fantastic part. I had Munchausen in it, and I got the brilliant storylines because I just made things up for attention, and I got into lots of trouble. I got to smash up a whole toilet once. I remember that, and you know, which is great for someone who's he wouldn't say boo to a goose. Anyway, so I had a great time in that for 2 years, and then unfortunately we couldn't get pregnant, actually. So we'd been trying for about 6 years, and it came down to have an IVF. So I tried IVF when I was working, and I don't know if you know, it was very fascinating, actually. The consultant said to me, no, you need to you have to leave work or it won't work. Which was, and it's called harvesting, and it's a phenomena where women, when they harvest for the 3 months, didn't get pregnant, very rarely got pregnant, and this is true. It's because the adrenaline, because the body's sort of saying danger, it's not the right time to get pregnant. And the consultant said, I see this in athletes, I see this in actors. It's the same adrenaline surge, and you know, your body's saying danger. So, but that was a really hard decision to leave because it was paying for the IVF, and 2, it was a regular job. But I thought, if I don't, then I don't stand a chance of conceiving. And luckily he was right, and I had a baby. Fantastic, straight after. So who's to know whether it was for that reason or not, but you know, it was the right decision. Then I thought, oh, work-wise, great. 6 months later, I did a series in Newcastle. I think it was called Distant Shores with Peter Davidson. And it was lovely part. And I thought, oh, great, my career is going to pick up again. Fantastic. It doesn't matter that I've had a bit of time out. And then that series didn't come out, which was really unfortunate because that was about 6 months' work. And then they shelved it. I don't know why. I think they thought it was too similar to Doc Martin. So that didn't come out. So then it looked like I hadn't worked for a couple of years, really. Then I had another, but I was lucky enough to have a frozen embryo from the other one. So another little baby. And so I say I can show off about the previous decade, you see, because I know what's coming. Then I had a terrible time. Then my career, because it looked like I hadn't worked for 4 years then. I had worked for the series, hadn't come out, blah, 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 blah. I had children, and at that time, that is irrelevant to the profession. They're not bothered. In fact, I remember a casting director saying to me, so tell me what you've been up to. And I said, well, I've had a baby. And she said, oh, acting, darling. You know, and it was all these, and then and I remember when I was doing Distant Shores, somebody came up to interview me, and she said, oh, you must be really glad that you've got this part because you haven't worked for so long. Now, I hadn't worked for 10 months because I'd had a baby, but it was, so that was the reactions to that. You know, it wasn't very, I'm hoping that's changed. I'm hoping that's changed for women. But I sort of started to lose my confidence then. So it's 4 years I had looked like I hadn't worked. And I wasn't really getting seen for things. So I thought we're going to have to really start again in a way. And rethink it, talk to my agent. So I started to do quite small parts that I never would have accepted in my 20s, but in lovely stuff, in little films, well, not little films, but small parts in classy stuff. Jimmy McGovern's film, great writers. And then I did about 5 of those little jobs like that, 1 or 2 days. And then slowly started getting seen again and did a lot of theatre as well, which was lovely because that was my first love. A lot of theatre. Did the Railway Children for a year in London. So a bit of a different decade there. But I had young children, so it suited me very well to do that. So to be at home and just go out and do things. And then came Coronation Street, of course. Now, I've been up for Coronation Street 3 times before. And I don't know if you know, but most people in Coronation Street have been up for it a few times. So you do go up through the years if you're a Northern actor. You'll go up for this role and you go, oh, and it's really crushing. You think, oh, would I love to be in Coronation? But then you realise why you don't get it when you get the role you get, because you weren't right for that, you know. And then so I think I went up for the landlady that Michelle Collins got. And I thought, oh, I was really right for that. But then later on, you know, when I did get Sally's sister, which was an absolute joy, one, because Sally Divener is one of the most beautiful people you will ever meet on this planet, who plays my sister, Sally, and 2, because it was a dream come true, really. I think any Northern actor wants to tick that off the list. And I got to play a very fascinating character with bipolar, who it's difficult playing a character like that because it's the same with the Munchausen. You have to be very responsible to play someone like that. So I did a lot of research, and I had a very brave woman who talked to me who had bipolar and took me through that. So that was I see it as a real privilege, really, to be given something like that, but a responsibility. So that brings it. So I left it wasn't my choice to leave. You see, a lot of actors will say, oh, I chose to leave. I didn't choose. I'm quite honest about it. But I know, I don't take it personally, because I know, well, she will come back. So I've been told she will come back. But if you try and sleep with your sister's husband over Christmas, you have to be told off for it. So she's had to go for a bit. But in the promise that she would be coming back. So then the lockdown happened, which was, everything you see happens for a reason, doesn't it? It's fortuitous that I needed to be with my boys again, really. And it was, to be honest, the last 6 months, Coronation Street, very difficult, because I was coming back on a Friday late and going back up on a Sunday. So I saw them on a Saturday, and they're now 14 and 16 and needed me, really. So though they were 12 and 14 there and a bit odd. So so the lockdown, we've all been together, haven't we? But I think Coronation Street did start filming again recently, but I'm glad I'm here, to be honest, for my boys, really. But in lockdown, I managed to work with a lovely theatre company called Payne's Plough. I don't know if any of you know Payne's Plough. It's a theatre company that works in communities, really. And I did lots of monologues over the phone and on Zoom to people who were isolating, and groups, vulnerable groups, really. So to hospitals and a lovely elderly group in Yorkshire called Bollocks to Bingo, they call themselves. And they were a real fun set of people. They were absolutely brilliant. I think there's about 30 of them. And I think mainly in their 80s, really, full of life. And one lady started writing poetry because she had a pigeon arrived in her garden. And she did a whole Percy Pigeon poems. So that was brilliant. And actually, Payne's Plough made one of them into an animation, like a little, they animated it, this Percy Pigeon poem. So I guess, so now this is now coming to end. The industry is opening up again. Oh, and also what I did as well in the lockdown, I've always had an allotment. So I actually did a year's course in as a professional gardener. So I'm a qualified professional gardener, and I was glad about that. I did it as just because I liked gardening, but actually I've worked as a gardener in the lockdown and now, and I'm really glad I did that. And I wish, that's what I say to young actors, always have another string to your bow, because one, it gives you financial independence. Two, you don't go in an interview desperate for the job, because I can smell desperation, and it just empowers you. So whatever it is, be able to do something else. And I think if in 30 years, if there's anything I've learned, is not to let this industry, which is quite brutal at some points, be responsible for your happiness. You must never let it, because you can never win. So that's what, again, I say, and it's a river and it goes in lots of directions. And I think, as I say, I've had ups and downs in my career, and this feels very much like a new chapter. And I don't know where it's going to go. So all I can think is it's a river. what will be. But I have learned, as I say, to find happiness elsewhere. And that's it, really. I don't know how long that was.
Oh, that was very interesting, Connie. Does anybody want to ask any questions? We have a few minutes yet before we go on to the next item. Unmute yourself if you want to.
I'd like to ask you a question, Connie. When I interviewed you, you were speaking quite a lot about what parts you would like to play now, and I think you mentioned Hamlet's mother. And I think you actually went with the family to Elsinore, didn't you, quite a lot when you were a child?
Oh, yeah. So, that's perhaps why I'd like to play in Hamlet. But it's, my mum's Danish, as I said. So we did always go to Denmark we're lucky enough to go to Denmark every summer. Yeah.
Hi, Connie.
Hi.
My question is it's slightly writing related. Obviously, I write, dialogue and so forth. Do you, when you get a script, do you kind of see it before you get a preview, and do you get to say or make changes or whatever to the script, or how does that work? You know, when you're in a part and.
Well, I think what people don't, something like Coronation Street, the writers are the top of their game. They're absolutely brilliant. And there's about 15 of them or 20 of them. And you can't do any better. There's no way. The only time perhaps I would flag something up, I would never change dialogue without being, is if it was inaccurate. If I really thought my character wouldn't do something, I would never change it myself. I'd flag it up, and I'd never change the dialogue. I'd flag it up to the writer and say, I think there's an inaccuracy here, also. And usually it's changed. But I think the writers, I mean, I've got my job. I can't write, and I would never presume to.
So can you, when you get a piece, can you tell that it's been written by one of the stable of writers, or do you just say, carte blanche, this is what's in the piece that I'm going to demonstrate or portray? You can't tell, you don't pick up styles or anything like that from.
Oh, you're doing Coronation Street very much.
All right.
Oh, they've all got the different style.
Yeah.
And one of them's very raunchy. So you're going to get some rude jokes in.
All right.
Well, it's worth mentioning that Julie Hesmond-Elsie's his husband is one of the script writers on Corrie.
Yeah.
Ian Kershaw. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hello.
So my final comment, it's not really a question, is I do connect to this point about people from a working class background, certainly in this part of the world, not finding it easy to make any kind of headway in the art side. As a writer, I'm a working class. As a writer, I found very little traction. So, I connect to that entirely. I'll mute myself now.
Was there
Connie,
somebody else wanted to ask?
Yeah.
Mark, or was it a lady's voice somewhere? Who was that came?
Well, I was going to ask something. It's Alison.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. Connie's told us about some wonderful experiences as an actor, but can you tell us about any of the negative ones? What have you done that you really wished you hadn't?
Well, do you know what? If you're working, happy days. I mean, it's that. I mean, I'm very fortunate, but I have had some very, weirdly enough, I was saying about the industry changing. When I did the bill, there wasn't any social media around. When I did Coronation Street, there was. Now, that is huge because I played baddies on, well, Coronation Street wasn't a baddie, but I mean, actually did some bad things. Now, I got death threats in the internet. Twitter, social media. I got how ugly I was, and on the bill, I once had someone scream at me, think when I asked for some shoes in a shop because she was scared of my character. But you didn't get any of that. And it's now you are watched. People can get in touch with you. In fact, I wasn't on any social media when I joined Coronation Street. And I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on Twitter. And by the first day of joining, someone had done fake accounts for me in my name. So if you look on my Twitter, it's Connie S. Hyde, because someone else has got my name. So, and on Facebook, the same thing. So I couldn't believe that, because so they said, yeah, the only way you can get around that is by putting a tick on it, you know, being verified. So that, to me, I feel sorry for young actors, because that's what they're going into. And I believe sometimes people get parts now from how many followers they've got, which is, to me, horrendous, how that's going. Yeah.
Also, didn't you do something with Julia in lockdown, which I've seen notices of on YouTube, but I haven't found out how to watch it yet.
Oh yeah, we did a little film. Yeah, you're right, Peter. We did. Yeah, a little. It was quite funny, really. Yeah, you should be able to watch it. Right. I think it was Open Sky. It was a production company. So if you looked up them, maybe.
Okay, right, I'll do that. Yeah, because you both play interviewers in an interview situation, don't you? I read that bit. Yeah.
Okay, Mark. You wanted to ask something?
I'd like to know, as being an actor, do you get parts that are based specifically in a certain part of the country? And if so, do you get told the accent that you use? Because the one thing that bugs me, and one or two other people on here I know, is when you see somebody who is playing somebody from the north, sometimes it's just this sort of e-by gum type of accent that they use, and it's not Manchester, it's not Western, it's just this sort of generic northern accent, and it really bugs me when that happens. You get coached on the type of accent that you would use.
Well, yeah, you do your own, really. You get a dialect coach. Right. So I would get a dialect coach, but you can't believe how people just don't. But producers don't bother. They go, oh, it's up north. Well, it's Yorkshire or Lancashire. You know, I mean, they just put us all in the same, bracket. But I was told at Lambda that I would never work with this accent. So I better, learn an RP quick, sharpish. In fact, the language teacher wouldn't talk to me. She said, I can't understand you every time I talked in my accent. I can't understand you. You won't work. And of course, probably I've worked more in Lancashire than I have in anything.
She obviously hasn't met Sid. No, we did a project 10 or 11 years ago now, going around Lancashire, recording people and finding the different ways that people spoke. And when Sid, who was from Chorley, spoke to somebody from Wigan, the difference was amazing. It was totally different. But I was just wondered if you did have a particular, if you were supposed to be from Manchester, did you get told that Manchester people speak like this rather than this?
Well, Manchester accent's changed a lot in 20 years. So that is from actually the music industry. So it's fascinating how the Manchester accent has changed. But yeah, I love accents. I absolutely love them. But you rarely, to be honest, you rarely get cast. I'd love to do a Scottish or something, but there are plenty of Scottish accent actors, unless you're, Olivia Colman or something. It'd be lovely to play. I've played lots of posh actually when I was younger. So, but there are so many actors that are from there. But you're right, it is a bugbear that, especially when you're from there and they haven't got it right. Oh, it's really annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There are one or two tapes kicking about that I've done for theatrical voice coaches, where they send you a whole list of sentences that they expect you to recite onto then when I started doing it on early cassette and tapes. And the one sentence I can remember more than anything is something to do with he was lured to the sewers. So if you're lured to sewer, they know where you come from.
Fantastic. Well, it used to be on tapes and CDs. I've got loads of CDs and tapes, but of course now that is what the internet is good for, because I can literally go, right, Worley accent, and it's brilliant for that.
No, I think accents are fascinating, and I mean not just in acting, but you know, in life in general. I remember about 1970 when I was at university being told by a new student from London that if I'd wanted to get a job in London or in the south of England, I wouldn't have stood an earthly, with the accent that I had. And yet at the time I'd lost it quite a lot. I'd been at university by then about 3 years, and I fell back into it afterwards. But there was so much prejudice, wasn't there, against regional accents, whereas now it's swung the other way, hasn't it, with newscasters and everybody, and different ethnicities, different accents from different parts of the UK, so it's become much more diverse, which is a good thing. Anybody else like to ask Connie a question?
I want to ask a question, but I can't get my head down. Hello?
Hello. I can hear a voice from somewhere. Who's?
It's Christine McCherry, but I don't know how to get my screen up.
Yeah, we can see you, Christine. Just ask Connie.
By video, use by video.
Right.
I can hear you anyway, so you can ask
Yes,
it.
we can hear, yeah.
All right, thank you. It's just, I suffer very much from stage fright. If I stand on a stage with people staring up at me, I just freeze. Do you ever have that problem, or have you always been able to get on stage?
No, I've had it twice.
Have you?
And it is horrendous.
Okay.
It's irrational. I can't tell you. It's kind of nothing. It was when I'd done doing the Railway Children, and I'd done it for 6 months, the same thing every night. And then I messed up a line. Then the next night, I could see it coming, the line.
Yeah.
Then I messed it up again because I was nervous about the line. Never messed it up before. And I had to go and have hypnotherapy, actually, Christine. It's quite, because it's a weird anxiety, and a lot of older actors get it, actually. And it's almost like you're going through a tunnel backwards. You sort of look and you realise what you're doing. You see 1,000 people watch, and you go, and it's sort of like an out of body experience on stage, anyway. And then, as I say, when I had a bit of a tough time going back into the industry, I had the same sort of almost terrible imposter syndrome, like it was all the last 10 years hadn't happened, and I couldn't really get my head into I had to be very brave. And again, I think I took a couple of beta blockers on the first couple of days of filming, because I couldn't get through it without it. So no, it's it's weird, because a lot of the best actors I know are shy people, Christine.
Yeah, I think I'm shy. I want to be the centre of attention, but I'm frightened of being the centre of attention. So yeah, you've explained things just how I felt when I froze on stage. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any question to ask?
This isn't a question.
No, go on. What?
Maria is having terrible trouble. She says she can't hear anything and she can't see anything. Could somebody help her, please? She's been with us all the time, but she hasn't been able to.
I've sent her various messages. It must be a local problem on her computer, I think, and one or two other people have made but she's gone in and out several times, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Might be lucky
Well,
next time.
Well, I mean, she'll be able to watch the recording anyway. So
Yes, yes.
That's one of the reasons
Right.
we like to record, because sometimes people miss a few minutes or something like that happens.
Yes.
So I've got a
Okay.
question.
Yes.
So me again, Connie. Have you any future ambitions? Would you like to write something or do art or just continue in the profession that you've got? Do you have things in the future you'd like to do?
Well, I'd like to say, because again, if I'd love to be able to try and write something, because I always think if you can't get through the door, build your own door. Try and, because I think that's another way of doing it. And again, I talk to a lot of young actors and I say, just improvise in a room, just get something going. So I think I'd probably do that rather than sitting there waiting for the phone to ring is the worst thing, because it won't. Well, it might do, but as I say, you've got to make your own look, really, I think. And especially now, I'm 51, and it's called the graveyard slot for a very good reason for women. 50, yeah, if I can make it to 70, I'll start working again. But this is a very dodgy time for actors. And I used to think, when actresses used to tell me that, I used to think, oh, I won't be that. Blimey, is it true? The parts go down, and you instead of being the main one, you're coming in, and if you're lucky, saying, "Do you want a cup of tea?"
So you were saying actually about the change to the industry with this this COVID circumstance, for want of a better word. But in my head, all this isolation must be driving people nuts to get some new content to watch on the television, because there isn't that much you can do, is there? So I think to myself, are there new channels being opened up? If obviously BBC and ITV are not doing as much as they were doing, and is it a case of something like Netflix, for example, taking new sort of programs or whatever? I'm just sort of thinking, not strategically, but just thinking like lateral thought, where you say, well, if it's not happening here, it's got to be happening somewhere, but where is it?
Yeah, Terence, I mean, for you as a writer, what I would say, or I don't know if you, is they must get thousands of scripts every day, the BBC. I know they do, thousands and thousands of scripts. But what you could do, this is what the phones are great for, is actually do a little pilot yourself. Get a few, film a little 2-minute pilot yourself.
Yeah. Because
that is probably get you seen. And, more than scripts, I think. Just think outside the box, get people in, and it'd be fun to do anyway. Get a little 2-minute show reel of your work and send that in.
Yeah. All right. That sounds interesting, actually.
Oh.
Thanks for that.
So there we are, Terence, yeah. Right. So anyway, I'd like to thank you very much, Connie, for coming along and giving us that wonderful talk about your career as an actor that's still ongoing, obviously. And I hope you do come back in Coronation Street. Kevin Webster's got a new partner now, but anyway, I'm sure there'll be a scope for your character to develop in other ways. So, it really has been interesting. And as you say, it's rather concerning that perhaps, there aren't the same opportunities now for young people. There aren't grants for them to go to drama school, and that's more barriers than there were. So we still fight an uphill battle, perhaps, to some extent, don't we, if we're sort of Lancashire working class or similar, But anyway, I'm sure there will be some young people that will come through, and hopefully so. So we'll look forward to seeing you on screen and elsewhere in the future. And thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Connie. That was brilliant.
Connie.
It really was.
Bye, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I might have to go because I've got the boys here. I've got to take them out for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to watch the banjo later on because it's recorded, is it? This? What time's the banjo playing?
It's violin.
Violin, Julie.
Oh, it's violin. Oh.
Julie's got a fiddle. Mark's got a banjo. If I need a banjo, I'll send for Mark.
We've got the violin piece by Julie down as 3:10.
Right, well, I'll try to watch that later, but I've promised the boys that. Oh, is this any? Oh, I can stay for another quarter of an hour.
Oh well.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we come to the spot now where we hear the results of the annual competitions for 2021. So Olive, that's over to you, I think.
That's right, yes. I'll do them as quickly as I can, but I hope that everyone can hear. We had 75 entries this year, which was absolutely super. And thank you to all the people who responded to my frantic emails when we'd only had a very few number of entries. For the Batty Cup, that's free verse poem in standard English. The adjudicator was Sheila Clift. First, A World Above by David Lithgow. Second, Daydream Streaming by David Lithgow. And third, The Old Vicarage by Sally Williams. Commended, Byzantium Calls by Terence Park. Surety by Jeanette Greaves. And Time for a Cuppa, also by Jeanette Greaves. Then the Pomfret Cup, Any Rhyming Verse poem in standard English. Adjudicator, Sheila Clift. First, Sonnet for Lancashire by Sally Williams. Second, Taking Steps by Jeanette Greaves. Third, Love You Forever by Peter Jones. Commended, Across the Pond by David Lithgow, As If You Were Near by Terence Park, and Reflection by James Lancaster. The Brown Cup, Any Piece of Prose in Standard English. Adjudicator, Cynthia Kitchen. First, The Singing Teacher by James Lancaster. Second, The Joys of Youth by Peter Jones. Third, Turning 50 by D. Parkin. Commended, Glorious for Some by Peter Jones. Mercer Cup, short story in standard English. The adjudicator was Dorothy Nelson. First, A Job to Die For by Dan Forrester. Second, One Door Closes by Carol Talbot. And third, The Glass Fly by Terence Park. Commended was Transformation by D. Parkin. The William Barron Cup, flash fiction short story in standard English. Adjudicator, Karen Kelly. First, The Young Man and the Sea by Jeanette Greaves. Second, The Grumpy Old Man by Tom Ungles. And third, Mind How You Do by Peter Jones. And that brings me to the final of the results. So congratulations to all of those people. And I'm pleased to see you in Lytham in June, if we can. Then you can receive your trophies and your awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Olive. Congratulations to all the winners. I could see one or two surprised looks on people's faces as the names were given out. But anyway, well done to everybody, and not just those who were among the winners, all those who put in entries for the competitions. So now we're moving on to the members' entertainment section, and we're going to ask Julie to play. Would you like a 5-minute comfort break before we proceed? Do you think that's a good idea? If you want to get a cup of tea or something? Yeah. Okay, we'll break for 5 minutes or so then, and then we'll come back. Thank you.
5 minutes is all right.
I'll say bye now then.
Yes, well, thank you, Connie.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Olive, then, would you like to go first?
Oh, okay. This was something that I did write a few weeks ago when we had that snowy weather, and I called it Brief Respite. Silently, stealthily, it came in the night, floating like feathers from a darkened sky. Only night shift workers were aware of its coming. Others slept peacefully, tucked up snugly in their beds. As day dawned, a rude awakening. The outward world was white, covered with snow. Nothing looked the same. Children were excited, breakfasted quickly, then wrapped up well. Wellingtons and winter woolies rushed outside to make their marks in the virgin snow. To build snowmen, snow dogs or igloos, to slide and toboggan on anything to hand, tin trays, wooden boxes, even plastic sheets. Faces aglow, huge smiles, the sound of much laughter ringing on the air. Happiness for a short while. Coronavirus blues banished, replaced with family fun.
Thank you, Olive. Yes, so we did have our fair share of snow, didn't we, this winter, but no doubt children at least will have enjoyed it, if no one else. And we look forward now to perhaps some spring weather coming along.
That's right.
So thank you.
I do.
Have you got another one there? Yes.
Yes, I
yes,
do have
go on,
another
please.
one. Yes.
Yes.
Most people have been enjoying nature and taking quite a lot of comfort from being able to go into their gardens and enjoy at least seeing something green. And of course, spring's coming, so lots of the flowers are now beginning to come into bloom. So this is called Nature's Harmony. The sun slipping slowly down brought dusk about the place. Stillness was in the air and peace on the old man's face. Working time was over. His aching limbs could rest. In the rocking chair he sat, straw hat upon his chest. A gentle breeze was playing a simple serenade, and newly planted saplings danced as though in a parade. Clouds of insects hovered, wings playing their own soft tune. The creak of the rocking chair acted as metronome. No symphony could be finer, no composer capture the sound of nature's own harmony as dusk fell all around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Peter, would you like to go next?
Right. Well, I've written a sketch a few years ago, and for this I need the help of my friend Julie, who actually is one of our members at my writers group that I run online. So say hello, Julie.
Hello.
Hi.
Right. I'll set the scene for you. Fred is going to the supermarket. Sarah feels adventurous.
Get me some of them orgasmic tomatoes. I've heard they're wonderful.
I think you mean organic, love. I know they're called love apples, but that's going a bit far. What else would you like?
Well, see if they've got any of those crab sticks. I wonder if they turn crabs into sticks.
I don't think, oh, never mind. I'll see what I can do.
I've heard that Sambuca's honey is delicious. Get some of that too.
That would be Manuka honey, I think.
Oh, of course it is. No, silly me.
Why don't you come with me then? You can browse to your heart's content and you might come across something else you fancy trying.
Oh, I won't if you don't mind. I'll jump in the shower while you're gone. I want to see Elsie's new grandson when you come back. He was born last week and she's babysitting while her Ellen goes to the pictures.
Sounds like a plan. What's the little fella's name?
Argos.
Are you sure that's right? You know how you can get a little bit stuck with names.
I'm positive. It seems Helen's a shopaholic and has named all her kids after stores.
Good heavens, it's bad enough when these football fans name the kids after a team. How many kids has she got and what are you called?
Well, I got is her fifth. She has 2 girls and twin boys. Oh, let's see if I can remember the names. Right, well, the eldest girl is Dorothy Perkins. The twin boys are Holland and Barrett, and the youngest is Laura Ashley.
That last one is almost normal. She got off lightly. What the hell was Helen thinking about? Doesn't she realise these kids have to go through the lives with names that are given?
I just think she was looking for something a little different. You know what the young guns are like. Wouldn't be seen dead naming the children with conventional names like Susan or David.
I suppose it could have been worse. At least she didn't call any of them Ann Summers. Right, I'm off to Asda, and then we can go visiting. Is there anything else you would like?
How about sex on the beach?
Eh? This weather, it's bloody freezing.
No, silly, it's a cocktail. I believe they're doing an experimental cocktail range this month.
Phew, I was just thinking, steady on, old girl. Cocktails it is then.
Right, love, off you go then. Don't forget to lock the door behind you. I won't want any nasty surprises while I'm in the shower.
I know what you mean. I get one every time I take my clothes off these days. Never seen so many creases. See you later, love.
Bye now. And your creases aren't that bad. Mind you, I'm used to them.
Ooh, cheeky. That's enough of that. See you later.
Very good.
Very good, yes. So have you written that at one of your group sessions, Peter and Julie? Right.
Well, Peter wrote it, not me.
Yeah, so you played the other part, yeah. So have you anything else you want to read, Peter, or shall we go on to Christine now? Right, Christine, would you like to go next then?
I've got what you might call an office here, which just seems to be a pile of papers everywhere, and my filing system is 2 plastic carrier bags, and I never seem to be able to make up my mind what to read. So I drag one thing out, then another. I don't know if anybody else does this, you know. So I've got piles of paper here, and bits of paper everywhere. So there's just a couple here that I picked out anyway. One I don't think I've read before. It's called Confessions of a Bored Housewife. It's okay, it's not too racy or anything. I've been married 20 years and I've had enough. I'm waiting on him hand and foot and other tiresome stuff. To be quite honest, it's been one thing after t'other, tending to all his needs and coping with his mother. I'm bored. I want to see the world, make love beneath the stars. But he just wants to garden or tinker with his cars. I yearn to ride a camel in some far-off distant land, but he's happy on a donkey riding on the sand. I'll learn to be a scarlet lass and have dishy men galore, all falling at my painted toes and begging me for more. I dream of soaring o'er the clouds in a private jet. His trips involve the bookies just to place a bet. I've packed, I'm off to Paris, I don't really care. As long as I have some spending money and enough to pay me fare. I've drawn out all our savings from the Halifax. Don't worry, I've left him just enough to pay the council tax. That's one.
Very good.
This one,
excellent.
Sorry, this one I wrote, it's called A Modern Sonnet. I read something about how you form a sonnet, as in Shakespeare's time, and this is a modern sonnet. Whether it meets the bill or not, I don't know. It's called Time Will Tell. 'Twas time that helped the apples on the tree blush and ripen in the warm autumn light. And at that moment, when you smiled at me, I saw your love was shining, pure and bright. But winter's frost was not so far away, and time did chill the flame of sweet desire. Love's burning passion died one dark, cold day. There were no feelings left to feed the fire. Yet still I talk and smile and say hello, Remain polite throughout the sad farewell. Too late to plead, I watch you turn and go. Will I forget you now? Only time will tell. And time can reap a bitter harvest yet. As long as I have breath, I never will forget. It's a sonnet.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Christine. Anybody else brought anything that they'd like to read or recite? Or
I will, Judith, if you don't mind.
who is that, Julie?
It is, yeah.
Can't see your face. Yes, go on. Yes, please.
Well, as it's Mother's Day tomorrow, I wrote a little thing because I think I might be busy tomorrow, so I'll say it now. And one of the challenges was a day that made you proud. And so I've combined the two. So it's a tale about my son. So as it's almost Mother's Day, I thought I'd tell the tale of the day my son redeemed himself from being put up for sale. I used to be in Andram when my son was 3 or 4, and my mother used to babysit so I could go and tread the boards. After one final performance, the cast returned the following day to paint out all the scenery and put the seating away. As it was always Sunday morning, my mother wasn't free, as she always went to chapel, so my son, he came with me. He ran around the theatre and had a smashing time. Then came the special moment. He took his chance to shine. As we took a tea break, I heard, "Julie, turn around." Then everyone went silent. You could hardly hear a sound. Only a tiny little voice was drifting through the air. And there was my son, centre stage. Well, we all just stopped and stared. He was singing Bar Bar Black Sheep, and I couldn't believe my eyes, which by now had filled with tears of joy, and my heart was filled with pride. After he finished his rendition, the place erupted with applause and cheers for him to sing some more. So he sang again, of course. This time it was Twinkle, Twinkle, even sweeter than before. And once again, when he was done, we cheered even louder than before. I was absolutely gobsmacked. He'd never sang before. And although we wanted another one, he left us wanting more. He calmly climbed down off the stage and got himself a drink and said it was very hot on stage and his face had turned bright pink. I'll never forget that moment. It still makes me weep and wail. When I think only an hour later, my son was back up for sale.
Thank you very much, Julie.
You're welcome.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Anyone else before we ask the other Julie to play for us?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Julie. So Julie Proctor, would you like to play for us now, please?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's all very strange, this Zoom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for inviting me to play. This is the first opportunity I've had to perform in front of an audience since March last year. So I'm feeling a little bit nervous because of the Zoom type thing we've got going. I'm going to play 3 traditional clog dance tunes that you've probably heard played somewhere around Lancashire. And as you listen, try to imagine the rhythms of the clogs tip-tapping to the tunes. Okay, so the first one, I'll have to stand up to play. That's what I'm used to doing. The first tune is the Alston Clog Hornpipe, which is also known as the Lancaster or Manchester Hornpipe. And I hope this is going to sound all right. If it doesn't, you can always turn the volume down, can't you? Okay, so here goes.
Lovely.
Did it sound all right? Because I've
Yeah,
no idea
brilliant.
what it
Yeah,
sounds
brilliant.
like on Zoom.
Very good.
Excellent.
No, carry on, yes.
The
Lovely.
next one is called Archie's Fancy, and this one I've played quite a few times accompanying Alex Fisher. Does anybody heard of Alex Fisher? She's often seen dancing around Lancashire.
Yeah, well, we were going to have her to entertain at one of our meetings, but with COVID, it's had to be deferred because you played for a wench at Sid's conference at Blackpool, didn't you? Was it in the autumn of 2019? Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So this one's a waltz, so a different feel to it. So if you want to waltz around, well, I'll tap your feet. Well, feel free. Okay.
Oh, that was lovely.
Brilliant.
I can
Really
I can
brilliant.
hear Alex dancing away in my head. I've heard that one.
That was lovely.
The next one is called, well, the final one is called Tip Top Polka. And you might recognise this tune because it accompanies a very famous group of clog dancers from Bake Up, the Britannia Coconut Dancers. You've heard of them, of course, haven't you? So it's very similar to what they dance to. It's called Tip Top Polka.
Oh,
Bravo.
Oh, thank you.
excellent.
Oh, thank
You haven't got a little encore to play, have you, Julie?
Pardon?
You haven't got an encore that you can play? Another little bit. It doesn't matter if you haven't.
I can do if you want.
Yeah.
Want me to do it now?
Yes, please.
yes,
If you've got something that you can play.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'll sit down. I know this one in my head. This is the Kesh, so you probably heard this one.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Yeah.
Very good.
Absolutely brilliant.
So we'll look forward to seeing you with Alex Fisher in due course. She'll be rebooked when it's convenient, when the COVID restrictions are over. So, yeah, you mentioned about the Bake Up Coconutters. I know there was some controversy about them a few years ago, wasn't there, about them blacking their faces and, you know, with this politically correct age that we live in. But they used to come around, you know, in the area where I live, Accrington area, back in the 1960s, 70s, they used to be at all the carnivals and that. So I presume they're still going, the sort of non-COVID times, aren't they?
They're still going, well, they're hoping to get dancing again sometime soon, but it'll probably be around about July, I think, before
yes.
start up again.
Okay, well, I think, you know, we need to keep these old traditions going, don't we? These Lancashire traditions and clog dancing and so forth. Yeah, it's important that we preserve our culture, I think. Yeah. So thank you very much, Julie, anyway.
Can I say I've really enjoyed the meeting, listening to all the writing and the guest speaker. It's been fantastic. So thank you again for inviting me.
Oh, you're most welcome. So, unless anybody else has anything that they want to read or recite, I think, has somebody else got something?
Yes, Maria.
Maria, yes, Maria, would you like to?
Can I read one of my poems?
Yes, please do, yes.
This is called, it's about Christmas and what can go wrong at Christmas. And it's called Festive Capers.
Right.
The season of goodwill comes just once a year, as we all dance round the Christmas tree and cheer. Grandad slumped in his favourite armchair, unaware in his blissful slumbers of his pint of beer, being tossed precariously up and down, like some ship on a stormy night, on the rhythmic swell of his gigantic paunch. Little Johnny and his younger brother Tommy can be heard all over the house, fussing and fighting over their presents, into a series of excited squeals and howls they launch. "Stop that noise, for heaven's sake," cries Mother in her anguished state. Black smoke billowing out of the oven as she looks on helplessly at the burnt offering that was once Christmas dinner. "Well, there's always beans on toast," she splutters and chokes through a thick black cloud. Father looks on and just sighs. "Yes, I guess that will have to do." Here we all sit around the table singing merrily. "Why are we waiting?" a voice announces cheerfully from the kitchen in sweet dulcet tones. "Because I've cremated the turkey, that's why." Granny suddenly declares, "Well, that's that I'm off upstairs." Uncle Fred waits patiently, but little does he know, Granny's well and truly wedged, halfway down the pedestal, legs in the air. The strain too much to bear. Just as Granny and pedestal, still firmly entwined, disappear through a large black hole that was once the bathroom floor, whizzing through the air at the speed of sound. Crash, bang, wallop. One fine dining table, once lavishly polished, now lies flattened and completely demolished. Oh, what a commotion as Granny floats on an ocean of debris. Broken chairs, shattered ornaments, mangled Christmas tree, decorations entangled, and all whilst firmly on her pedestal. The whole street come out to watch and cheer as Granny is carted off unceremoniously to A&E. It's just a take on some of the things that possibly could go wrong, you know.
Yes, that was very good. Thank you. Yes, I mean, this last Christmas, people haven't really been able to celebrate as they normally would, have they, with family and friends because of COVID. But hopefully, this coming Christmas, things will be more or less back to normal. But thanks very much for that, Maria.
Yes, hopefully so.
Yes. So, anybody else want to? Terence, have you got something? Then Terence, I think you were the first to indicate.
Well, I've got a poem about work. This was an attempt at forced rhythm, but anyway, work. A world we all know. Hellish noise, alarm rings, dreary dawn, day begins. Brush teeth, wash face, fine clothes, rat race. Radio hurts ears. Where's my tie? Close to tears. Eat toast, won't stay down. Brew scalds, pain frown. Late for work, traffic jams. Lights red, pedestrians. Clouds scud, grey sky. Heavens leave nothing dry. Park car, make a dash. Brolly's out, mind the splash. Now earn daily corn, then home. Hide a yawn. Back to bed, counting sheep. Can't miss beauty sleep. That's it.
Yes, thank you. People have got used to working from home, haven't they? But before long, they'll be the mad dash back to the offices and things, and into that rhythm. Yeah. Did somebody else indicate they wanted to? Is it you, Christine? Yes. Thank you.
Well, this isn't mine. I wish it were, actually. It's an old book I picked up in a charity shop, published in 1922, and it's called Homely Verses of a Home Lover by Faye Inchthorne. And I love this little poem. It's called The Useless Day. I heard a certain woman say, "This has been such a useless day. I planned that every moment should be given up to doing good. I mapped out every single thing, first household tasks, then visiting the sick and sad with fruit and flowers. This would take up the morning hours. Then in the afternoon I meant each precious moment to be spent completing garments warm and thick for Mrs. Thompson's latest chick. And later on I meant to read the Minor Prophets, for indeed there is so much I need to know, and things crop up to hinder so. I can't pretend to understand it, but nothing happened as I'd planned it. First, Mrs. Love the Poor called in to tell me of that Janet Flynn who worked at Jones's by the station. The poor thing's had an operation. I really had to write a letter to say I hope she'd soon be better. And then a woman selling lace came to the door. Her poor thin face, so girlish yet so wan and pale, went through me, for she told a tale so sordid and so sad. And oh, the time she pulled aside her shawl and with imploring eyes and wild showed me a little sleeping child. It tore my heart. 'Twas foolish, maybe, the things I got for Thompson's baby. I packed them up and gave to her. She seemed a little happier. I made her tea and toast, and then she started on her way again. But when I did get out, I met with Mrs. Loquacious Jenkins' set of telling me about her house, how her pet cat had caught a mouse, and what her landlord wouldn't do, just how her neighbours plagued her too. I hadn't got the heart to say that I was forced to get away. She seemed so glad to be with me. I asked her to come in for tea and listen to her tales of war until she was obliged to go. Then, when I thought I'd really done, my youngest little child, but one, crept up into my arms and cried. Her tooth ached and her ear besides. So on my breast she laid her head until I got her into bed. I sat beside her and I told the story so well known and old. I sang to her and held her hand until she went to Bylaw land. And when I went downstairs at last, 'twas late and supper time was past. I was too tired to read or so, and everything just had to go. Yes, almost too worn out to pray. This has been such a useless day. Was it you in the realm of light, where day boots are ticked off at night? Did the recording angels say that hers had been a useless day?
Oh, very nice.
I mean, that's a charming.
Yeah.
Here, you know.
Really.
Yeah. I think it's very true to life as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm a counsellor and other things, as people know, and sometimes I don't even get started on the day's to-do list, you know, because something crops up or somebody contacts me and I have to spend the time and energy on something else. But I think sometimes it's meant to be, isn't it, that we're diverted from what we're trying to do, because, you know, there's some somebody that needs our help or whatever, you know, and yeah, I think that's very true. So thank you. Anyone else? We're down to you then, Sid, I think now for the final spot.
All right. Well, I trust you can all hear me. I'm completely lost.
Oh yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Zooming. This is a poem that's almost seasonal, as we're still in Lent. It's called Ode Pancake John, and it comes out of this beautiful little book by William Billington of Blackburn in 1883, entitled Lancashire Songs with Other Poems and Sketches. If you're short of something to do, read this. It's a lovely little book, all the way from Blackburn. And I shall endeavour to do this from memory. I've timed it. It lasts exactly 5 minutes. It might be shorter, but I've got my finger in the page where it's printed. So, so I can bail out, which is not like me at all. The story, for them as might struggle to keep up, the story is basically that the author, William Billington, is at home on his own in his little house, and he's not feeling very well when his old mate, Pancake John, pops in for a chat. And Bill doesn't really feel like chatting, so he says, well, you just carry on and I'll just say yes or no as you go along. And so Pancake John explains to him how he came to be called Ode Pancake John. Our carrot corridor, yesternight, Arknint rabble revelling up street, if out of patience with her din, when Pancake John come popping in. All right, says I, where have you been tramping? Not far, he said. I've come to camping, it's Pancake Tuesday, don't you know, and being country bred and old like you, if you're not over busy with your rhymes, let's have a chat about old times. All right, says I. Says he, oh, Mum, just tell me how they were getting on. They weren't feeling chewed, but hey, dash it, Bill, they were not but looking down retail. Esther been poorly? There is, I'll bet. Aye, said I, and I'm sore yet. A broken wheel gets a new spoke. They can mend machinery when it's broke, but they can't put new insides in folk. But if I have a penny or a groat, if I've a full, a fur, or an empty pot, I take it as me luck, me lot. I grudge no one, I grumble not, for he that holds big balance straight is sure to deal out weight for weight and find some road to make things right. Their foes, them as falls out with their fate because they have an empty plate. There's a lot that's poor and some that's ill. To rink right so, met blame theirself. Now that's a chat. Hey, I'm ill, that says, but silly John, I'm one of these who, when unfit for a job theirself, will still out a lead for somebody else. So let's just see what you can do. And I'll just say either aye or no. So wind up the clapper. Give it vent and retort unto the heart's content. If thou wants a theme, I can give thee one. It's why do they call thee Pancake John? Ah, that subject's none at worst. Hey, but let me have a pancake first, implored out John. I said, no, I'd make one, but I don't know how. He said he'd put me up to tips, and then both of us could grease our lips if I'd been not good enough to land him pond and find him stuff, so as whether I knew how or not, he'd have a pancake. That he would. Hey, so at it. But much more to do. I fun him tattle, hey, and he made two, aye, and greatly good uns. And then his text, he handled just as follows next. When I were a lad, when in 1819, when I were a lad, at Turner Green, there warned a woman that I know for a goose house stout to Fleetwood Hall, from Myers to Smithy up to Sykes Wife Lum, but pancakes med. For all has come, and children, bless them, they come with throngs, with clattering clubs and prattling tongues, with their clean checked brats and smiley faces. They were like merry men at fairs or races. So whatever said, or whatever done, they took, and they turned it into fun, and scriked and danced. The Lord be with him, it fairly did you good to see him. I'd bother you, but they'd let you sup. But if you ever weren't down, went up to midden, then they'd carry out, and they wipe your clean with a suited lads. There's no like that in town tonight, but then that's up another street. I'll tell this tale about moralising, for nobody wants so much advising. Well, I'd been pancaking all long day, and I'd caught at every house up way. I'd eaten and eaten for everlasting. Our folk were feared to be badly breasted. Me man would rub it with swine's grace to ratchet and to give me ears. Yeah, I'll never forget. I puffed and sweat and prayed that I may never be fat, because if fat folk suffer out like I did, they're harder, or they couldn't bide it. Word spread that I were welly gone with 18 old pancakes one by one. Me friends come to see me. But time rolled on, and I come round. I stirred out anon. All me playmates plagued me, and then, bit mon, it were then as they christened me Pancake John. Thank you.
Oh, remembered, Sid.
Thank you.
We could do with a bit of subtitle.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I only did that because I used to be able to do it. It's over a year since I last did that, and it were all swank, but it nearly worked.
I have to mention, Sid, you're the only guy I know that actually got Michael Portillo to sing folk songs up on Saddleworth Moor.
We did with Julie and playing in the string quartet that accompanied me as well.
All right.
Yes.
That was lovely.
Oh, so you went to Warswell, Waff as you call him, did you?
Aye. Well, we were on the at St. Paul's Church.
I can't get this. Sorry, I was just going to say, the way you deliver your poetry, it should be set to music, actually, I think. It sort of, it goes up and down like music, you know.
Beautifully read. Absolutely beautifully read.
It was absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Is Julie still on here?
Yes, she is.
Julie Proctor.
Yes.
Julie
I'm
Proctor
still
is the
here.
one who plays. She
I'm
plays
still
for
here.
me for a lot of these poems.
Yeah.
Well, have you an item that you can do then just now as we close, or you and Julie together, or perhaps?
I don't know. Does it work together? This?
It
yes.
doesn't. No,
Does it not,
doesn't.
Julie? No.
There's a time lapse, so it.
Doesn't, because we have all
it could be a
these
bit
nods
difficult.
and winks and faces to pull, don't we, to get everybody.
Yeah, I think you need to
right.
I think you need to pre-record something like that, don't you, so that you can sync it up.
Yeah.
One day we'll be back on a stage. One day Julie and I will be back on a stage, and you're all invited.
Yes, well, when we have a live meeting again, yes, and, that
I think we'll all come as well.
It's like the language of my fathers, if you like. My family came from Rishton and Akron.
Oh, I remember you saying before, yeah.
It is.
I remember me Auntie Barbara coming in one day, leaning on his stick, and she went, "Here, I just walked up, ruin it. First put my leaks out." I've never forgotten that remark.
I understand that. You know? Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, because the dialect of the accent does vary, because Lancashire is such a big place, isn't it? You know, even a few miles, or even like from Accrington to the Rosendale Valley, there are differences in sounds and that. It's only like 5 miles up the road, if that, you know. Yeah.
I'd just like to welcome my friend Pat, who's here from Glasgow today.
Oh, I can see Pat there. Yes, hello, Pat.
Yeah. Just wave, Pat. Give everybody a wave.
I'm looking for Pat's picture.
Give everybody a wave.
Pat came. And Pat is, of course, Scottish, so I don't know how much you've understood of our Lancashire dialect and that, Pat. But anyway,
you probably don't understand Lancashire then, are you, Scottish?
But anyway, thank you for coming, and it's nice to see you here. It's one thing about remote meetings, isn't it? You know, people who couldn't make a physical meeting because of travelling distance, you know, can be present. So hope you've enjoyed it, Pat, anyway.
I've just finished reading a saga of 8 books called Outlander series. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
They're based in Scotland in 1940s and the 1700s during Culloden and so on. And I've learned a lot about Scottish history, and now I'm mad on Scotland. I really am. We're going to go to Scotland in July, hopefully, and see all these places. It's such a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
Can you unmute yourself, Pat? Can you unmute yourself? You're muted.
You want to speak? Bottom left-hand corner, it'll say mute or unmute.
Sorry, yes, no.
That's better.
Oh, we can hear you now, Pat. Yes. Yes. So,
have you enjoyed it?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
And Peter's not telling us, but he's half Scottish, aren't you, Peter, on your father's side? Yes.
Well, my dad's from Edinburgh, and my grandma's father's from Scotland, so I'm actually Scottish on both sides. Yeah.
Oh, but you sound
born in
like
Lancashire. Yeah, born in Lancashire.
Yeah. I've been searching for my father for over 50 years, and we found him 2 years ago. He was an American serviceman during the war. I found all the family, and I'm going over to visit them this year. We were supposed to be going last year. But
wow.
But then on top of that, we've gone through all the family tree and found that my father's family come from a few miles away from us. In the 1800s, the whole family, they were called the Dales. There was 12 kids, and Mum and Dad, Mary and Joseph, believe it or not, they all went over to Philadelphia and bought tracts of land and built a log cabin. And that's how it all started over there. But yeah, it's so strange how it's all come full circle, you know. But I'm so excited. I honestly, I'm telling strangers in the street, you know, I can see your faces going blank and you're backing away from me. You know, I am so joyful that I found my father and his family after all these years.
That's amazing.
So I've got a sister over there and a brother-in-law. My father died in 1981, but I've got a story to tell and I must get it down on paper someday.
Yes,
absolutely.
Didn't you read something or at one of the meetings? Was it last year or the year before? Oh, it was a live meeting at Lytham, yeah.
Yeah, we were searching then, and I never had any hope of finding him. I knew he'd be dead by now, and I'd given up. And then my son is studying genealogy, and he's a professor at Lancaster University, and he did a search, and he found someone with my father's name in Pittsburgh and traced them back.
Wow.
And it got a bit more exciting because then GI Trace got involved, and they talked to my sister over there. And she thought it was a scam at first, and then when she found out it was real, she was dumbstruck, but she was so kind, and she opened her heart and her home to us, and she's been lovely. And I met her in London last year, and we got on really well. So I've got a real story to tell, and I'm so excited. I'm sorry that I butted in all this.
No,
that's fantastic.
So interesting to hear, isn't it? Yeah.
Every one of us must have a story of their lives, part of the story that you can write down on paper and tell, and you know, it's mine, and it's wonderful, you know.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it's
They showed me a photograph of him, and I just burst into tears. And I said, it's not real, is it? It's not real. You just have him. Yeah. I put my hand on his picture like that, and it was like I was touching him. You know, honestly, I just broke down. I really did. I couldn't believe it. You know, so it was wonderful, really. You know,
that's wonderful.
I'm so lucky that I found his family. You know, and they're such a good people, you know. I thought with my luck I'd probably end up with some redneck in the backwoods somewhere, you know, that I couldn't get on with, but it's not true.
They're from Georgia.
Yeah. Oh, so that's wonderful. Yes, so you'll no doubt write it all in a book sometime, Christine. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all done. Yes. Yeah.
I think the part of me that's American is the part that likes to be in the limelight, and the part that's Lancashire likes to be in the shade. So they're always fighting one another, you know.
Christine, if you're free tomorrow afternoon, we have a writers' meeting. If you want to join us, you've already got all the details. You're always welcome.
Yeah, I'd love to, but every Sunday it seems to be taken over with something, and this Sunday, with it being Mother's Day,
Mother's Day,
of course, yeah,
it's dragging me by the hair down to Nicky Nook, and then taking me for a tack away meal somewhere.
Well, you know, you can
I'm not sure if I'll get back in time.
You can actually send something if you want, and we can read it out on your behalf. So, you know.
I'll do that. Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely.
I do miss the writers. They're such a lovely bunch of people, because we all love words. You know, we all have that in common. And I've never met a writer yet that I haven't liked. Funnily enough, you know, there are one or two books I've read that I haven't liked, but I've never met a writer I haven't liked. So we all share the love of books and the love of writing, don't we?
Yeah.
So we have that in common.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So I think it's time to conclude now. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your attendance. And Connie's gone now, of course, we've already thanked her. Thank you all, those of you who've read out your poems and articles, and Julie for music. And I think it's been a really good meeting, hasn't it? And I'm sure we've all enjoyed it, even those of us who've just been sitting listening, you know. And so I'd like to wish everybody all the best. I nearly said a safe journey home, but we're all sitting in our living rooms, aren't we? So perhaps our next meeting in June it will hopefully be a live meeting. Oliver's made the necessary arrangements with the venue, you know, subject to COVID restrictions, but we're hoping that June will be a live meeting, but you will be informed if anything has to change about the arrangements. So
booked.
Just a laugh, I put
it's all booked, Oliver, isn't it? And the hot pot and everything, yes. We won't be able to have that virtually, but we hope it's.
I was doing my face before I came on. I thought I'd put a bit of lipstick and makeup on, and then I sprayed on a bit of Chanel No. 5, but I don't know why. I mean, it's wasted, really. Unless you've got smelly vision.
So, Olive, would you like to say anything about the June meeting briefly? What's envisaged, if it can be live?
It's an unusual meeting, if it goes ahead, which we're hoping it will, because we're combining the AGM with the awards day. And we're hoping that we should be able to get together face to face and enjoy a hot pot. And the business part of the meeting usually is quite quick, because all the reports go out beforehand. And then, I say, there will be entertainment, as well as the presentation. There'll be entertainment by Peter and Barbara, Peter and Barbara Snape. And they're always very lively, and we thought that we would rather like to celebrate with them. So everything will come out, all the information will come out in the next record. It will also go onto the website, and hopefully, you know, people will book to come along. we will make the promise that if at the last minute things change and we can't go ahead with the meeting live, then anyone who's paid their money for the hot pot will be reimbursed. So thinking, oh, well, I might not get my money back. Okay.
Right.
And we'll still hold it on Zoom.
The date is June the 26th, Saturday,
Yeah.
June the 26th. So just a few days after we actually completely come out of lockdown. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
We should have all had a second jabs by then as well. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So
Can I just say, Olive, thank you so much for all your hard work and all your support and everything that you've done, not just for me, but for all of us at Writers.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
It's been an absolute treat for us, especially with what you've had to go through this year.
Thank you very much.
So we'll mention that in the minutes then, Jill. Thanks expressed to Olive from all the members for her work. Thanks, Olive. So, time to go now, and again, thank you for coming, and look forward to seeing you all in person, if possible, on the 26th of June. So all the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Judith.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Sid.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye, Carol.
Bye.
See you now.